What's up, mortgage coach community? Dave Savage. I'm sitting down here with Charadie Finkle out of, where are you located again?
Colorado Springs.
Colorado Springs, the Springs as they call it.
Yes.
I actually grew up in Denver, so and had family members down in the Springs, so know it well.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. It's grown so much.
Oh my gosh,
Look
yeah,
like Denver, probably.
absolutely. So I am looking forward to this interview. I know you're doing really well in the market. How did you do last year from a production level, and what do you think you're going to do this year?
Yeah. So I think that in total I did about 70 to 80 million. I wish I knew. I'm not a good tracker of numbers all the time. And then this year, definitely more challenges with the interest rates and things like that. And with the refinances all but disappearing. So definitely, if I were to maintain, that would be a win.
Good. So another $80 million year is the goal.
That would be fantastic.
That would be fantastic. All right. And I know we themed this when we talked about the different strategies you were going to share. We were talking like, hey, does this help buyers maximize purchase price or maximize purchase power, which I think all of the ideas do. Another idea was, how to help realtors sell more homes. And I think what we're going to show you guys will help you do that. But what we're really going to show you is how to win with rate shoppers and how to have an unfair competitive advantage because of the way that you're delivering your mortgage strategies and the way you're delivering rates and fees. So why don't you kind of share what you're doing, how you're doing it, and then we'll get into some specific strategies.
Sure. So I would say that I like Mortgage Coach for someone like me who wants to be as transparent. Like we all say that we all want to be as transparent with our clients as possible. We want to build that trust as quickly as possible. And that is going to be what helps us solidify that relationship with the client. And I remember, prior MC, that you would sit there and you'd crunch these numbers, you'd run it all and you'd spend the time doing that. But then the math worked on your engineers, but then you have everybody else who you still had to convince them that those numbers were correct. How did you get there? What are you doing? So Mortgage Coach to me is like my backup. It's like just saying, here's what she said, and it being in the software that it is has helped to just expedite the process.
So where you're going with that is before Mortgage Coach and now with Mortgage Coach. And it sounds like Mortgage Coach, part of it is that it adds so much value to everybody, regardless of whether they're an engineer, whether they're a first-time home buyer that barely qualifies, regardless of their sophistication level. This is the way that you want to help build trust, deliver transparency, and create a mortgage experience for people.
Absolutely. And it's a great way to, especially when we were doing refinances, to show people if you're living in this home expected 3 years or 5 years, you can adjust that in Mortgage Coach and you can show them if they have a benefit, and then vice versa, you can really show them that there's a huge benefit to doing what they're doing.
Yeah, so, no doubt. Whether it's a debt consol loan or a refinance, I mean, it's just simple and easy. Well, I know coming into this conversation, I had asked you how are you using Mortgage Coach most often right now? And literally when you were talking to me, you're like, well, Dave, at 9 o'clock this morning, I did rate options. And,
yes.
And then, you sent me a pending a rescore TCA, which I've never seen one of those. So I'm looking forward to that. You sent me a payment comparison. So rate options, payment comparison. I am looking forward to seeing what your standard pre-approval is. You also said a 60 versus a 90-day lock and shop.
Yeah.
And then you had appraisal gap. So you shared links to 6 different TCAs. Which one, we're not going to go through all 6, but knowing that we're probably only going to get through 2, which one do you want to show us first?
I think that one that is probably a big one right now is showing the lock and shop options
Oh,
for,
check
that
out
just
Lock
seems
and Shop.
like,
That's very in right now with rates just going up over 2% and everybody freaking out. Like, so what are you doing there? What's the conversation? And then show us the TCA.
sure. So the conversation is that they are wanting to really just be able to know what they're getting themselves into. And when rates were changing literally on the fly every day throughout the day, they want to be able to control what they can control. And I present Lock and Shop as an opportunity for them to cap out what their rate is going to be, because it does have that float down feature on it. But what I need them, the only decision I really need them to make up front is, do you want to start with a 60-day or do you want to start with the 90-day Lock and Shop? Because there is a slight variance in interest rate when they go with the longer term Lock and Shop options. So when I present it that way, they can say, okay, here's my worst case scenario, because now I know my rate, and avoid some of those surprises once they actually contract on a home. So I made that very pretty email for you
Which I
that
appreciated very much, by the way.
that I did not label well. I labeled it what they were versus who they were. So let me get to that. Let's see.
Yeah, if you need some help, I've got it right here.
Why don't you go ahead and pull it up?
All right, cool. So let me make sure that's what's on my screen. And boom. So here is the Lock and Shop. So it looks like it's just two programs. Why don't you kind of explain what we're looking at here?
Yes, absolutely. So I wanted to give them the same sales price. So you're looking at the purchase price of $650. They're doing their $647,200 as their loan amount, 5 1/4 and a 5 1/2. So that right there is the difference between two rate lock options. And I do educate them, because what I don't want to do, and I do like that Mortgage Coach does, is it prevents you from showing them more than 4 options. And that's just good practice anyway. And so we don't want to give them too many options. So I tell them that there are going to be options to buy down rate and do all of that, but we would discuss those later. And then just like you were doing right there, I show them the payment. When I send out this link, I give them a little bit of instruction. And if I'm really feeling savvy, I'll do the full-blown video, which I don't do very often. But if you go back up to the top there, I always like to advise them to go to that more info, because they want to be able to understand how am I coming up with this monthly payment, especially for those first-time buyers who may not be aware that taxes and insurance are being built into those estimated monthly payments. And then exactly the closing costs there.
Yeah, it looks like you do a really nice job. It looks like you're using templates.
I am using that, yes.
Now, do you create these TCAs, or does someone on your team create these total cost analysis?
We can do them both ways. This particular one I did create, but I will have members of my team create it. It is super easy, and we use Encompass, and I would never go back to running through those scenarios through Encompass. As you know, it takes so long to get everything changed over. And then I don't know about those very gifted loan officers, but for me, I would feel like it would always save half of one scenario and half of the other. So having Mortgage Coach save everything right on the spot is also very nice. And that I could build and build and build estimates for days.
So it's saving you time. It's
a huge amount of time.
Like, how much time do you think Mortgage Coach saves you?
I would say that it probably, per estimate, if I was especially a single estimate scenario, it might save me like 5 minutes. If I'm talking multiple scenarios, because I'm trying to manipulate Encompass with each one, we're probably looking at 20 minutes. And then also my attitude is different, where you have the client that's like, I want to see all of my down payment assistance options, my conventional, my FHA, and my attitude is like, no problem, I got it, versus oh no, which one am I going to commit to saving in here? How am I going to, how much time can, and, really just having to like mentally prepare to build all of these different options.
Yeah, no doubt. I hear that all the time from top producers. And also when you do put a video on it and you give the link, now everybody who's involved in the loan is seeing it and they know what you framed, they know what you said. I know from a last interview I did with a top producer, he spoke to the fact that he's not having to repeat the same answers to the questions. Like the people have it, they can reference it. So there's, call it the hard time that it saves, the creation time of a strategy. And then there's and again, we like to talk to our clients, we like to answer things, but there's some conversations where you're repeating yourself or they're confused. And he estimated that it might be up to 20 to 30 minutes per deal and just save time. Would you align with that?
That save time, save heartburn. And then I share that link. There's not confidential information on a loan estimate like your traditional loan estimate. And in reality, if the real estate agent ends up signing that final settlement statement, closing disclosure at the end, but I have found that the link is a better way for me to information shared so that the real estate agent is also on the same page as I am, versus doing like that hard sheet that they would feel like, do I want to share this with my real estate agent? Do I not?
Love it. So let's try to do one more strategy, and I'll pull it up because I've got them all named here. Okay. So which one of the 6 would you like to do next? We've got.
Well, I chose the lock and shop. So which one would you like to do?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I really want to know what you think would be valuable to your peers. So we got appraisal gap, we got standard pre-approval, we got pending rescore, we got payment comparison, and we got rate options.
So the appraisal gap one is great.
Okay, I'm pulling that up. Here we go. And boom. So tell us what we're doing here.
So with this, I feel like there's only so many times that you can kind of say a similar type of conversation, right? So they're looking at these appraisal gaps and the purchase prices, and they're going, oh, what if the appraisal came in low? What do I do? And they automatically assume that they're going to be able to just finance in that difference, but we're actually capping it out, where it's going to be the gosh, if I could even speak. So the lesser of the purchase price versus appraised value.
Right.
So on this one, we're trying to show them. So this one is a low appraisal. The problem with the one that you see here is that it's not showing them bringing in more cash to close, only because they had such a high down payment to begin with. So maybe this one was not the best one for the typical scenario where you're not having people have such a huge down payment option. So I apologize for that. I did not vet that one through.
That's okay. Well, forward me another appraisal gap because it's always a good one. I do, yeah. because and by the way, anyone listening to this, one of the reasons why the appraisal gap maximizes purchase power, because a lot of people are just concerned, like, oh, I don't want to pay that price because if it's an appraisal gap, and so a buyer is not going to make the winning offer in many cases. But because we titled this call "Winning with Rate Shoppers," I do want to make sure we cover this one, which is rate options. And this is super important, guys, because when you provide people with rate options, they're shopping. They're shopping on your platform, on your rates. And when they pick rate options, they pick the lender. Now, I noticed in this particular rate options, you're showing 2. Is that typical, or do sometimes you show 3?
So it depends on the scenario. Show me the one that you're looking at. This one here. Okay. Yeah. So this one, I gave them 2 different options because they were already kind of had a particular home in mind. So I didn't run like a now let's look at $450,000 purchase price or a variation in down payment. They very much knew they wanted 20% down. So we kind of got straight to the point with the two options here.
Got it. Do you do three? Do you do three options sometimes?
So I'll do three, I'll do four. It's very client specific, right? So if I know that their goal is to have the smallest amount of closing costs, then I would probably eliminate options where they're buying down the rate, and vice versa. If they were looking for the lowest rate options, just in an effort to not overwhelm them.
Okay, well, I do have one more question. And this one was about the pending rescore.
Yes.
And so I would love, to see what you're doing and how you're doing it on this one. So walk us through this one real quick.
Yes, this one was really important because this one was somebody that was shopping from lender to lender. And with one lender, they had a credit score over 700. And by the time that I pulled it, their score had changed, and they're trying to compare options from lender to lender. And so we did set them up. We figured out how to get their score back up and showed them what they're going to be disclosed at, because what their current credit is versus what their rate will adjust to once their score goes back up.
Yeah, and this looks like a lot of work, guys, but with
Oh no,
templates. I mean, what did this take, like 5-ish minutes? Because you were just
it was so quick, because you can duplicate the same scenario on top of the templates. Like you can, Dave,
yeah, no, I know, but I just want to emphasize for everyone, this is winning with rate shoppers, and it's fast and easy, and love how you have experience.com integrated. Do you ever call that out or mention that integration to a borrower? Do you ever, like, while you're showing them the TCA, mention that your reviews are here?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's back in the day where you would have it in your signature line. Now it's one place for everything.
Good. So that you call that out. Do you do much builder business?
I do some builder business.
Okay. Well, let's go into wrap up mode. I know when you and I were chatting before we hit record button, you mentioned that you wish you would have started using Mortgage Coach sooner. If you could just kind of speak to life before and after Mortgage Coach, and any advice you have for loan officers that are not giving every family a total cost analysis, or loan officers that are like, oh, this person needs it, this person doesn't. Just if you could give some of your, think of yourself as a sales manager giving advice to other loan officers.
Yes, as we have said a bunch of times, time is like our biggest thing. Like that's what we always feel like. Even Dave setting up this call with you, trying to find time. And so if this could save you time and create that level of transparency that you want with your clients, but also that you look sophisticated, that you look like you're keeping up with what's happening with technology, and that you're trying to complement them being able to have independence, have choices, feel like they're making good, educated decisions without, as a compliment to what you're telling them versus them combating what you're telling them. This is a great tool for that. I use it 100% of the time. Awesome.
Well, you are a great mortgage coach in Colorado Springs. Totally appreciate you making time to share a few ideas and strategies. Would love to get another link to one of your appraisal gaps. So if you don't mind forwarding that to me sometime today. And thank you so much. If our training team can ever help you, your branch, anyone in your office, let me know. And thanks for the time today.
Yes, and a beauty of that mortgage coach going awry was how quickly that eye shot. You could see this is not the scenario you want to be talking about. This does not line up with what we're talking about. And mortgage coach gives you that eyesight of it. So anyway, I will definitely get you that other one. And thanks for inviting me.
All right, guys. So hey, give us a like if you got value from this conversation. Give it a like, share it with your mortgage friends. And the links to the sample total cost analysis will be down below in the show notes. Take care, everybody.